Welcome to Adulting on the Spectrum. In this podcast, we want to highlight the real voices of autistic people, not just inspirational stories, but people like us talking about their day-to-day life. Basically, we want to give a voice to a variety of autistic people. I'm Eileen Lamb, an autistic author and photographer from France, and I co-host this podcast with Andrew Komarow. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Eileen. I'm an autistic entrepreneur and founder of the Neurodiversity Index. Today, our guest is Billy Mayfair. Billy is one of the top professional golfers in the United States and has been a regular on the PGA Tour since 1989. He boasts 5 PGA Tour victories and is the only player to ever beat Tiger Woods in a PGA Tour playoff. After dealing with Asperger-related symptoms for most of his life, Mayfair was diagnosed in 2019 with autism. Previously, during the 2006 season, Mayfair was diagnosed with testicular cancer and underwent surgery, returning to the tour just 2 weeks later. Along with his family, Mayfair began a nonprofit foundation tasked with providing support to both amateur and professional athletes and their families who struggle with autism-related disorders. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me on, guys. Been looking forward to it.
So we like to start our podcast off. We ask each guest how they prefer to identify, and we don't mean he, her pronouns, although you're welcome to share those too. We mean person with autism, autistic, Asperger's, I don't care, no preference. Do you have a preference? If so, what is it?
I'm not saying I have autism, and I was diagnosed with it, and it was probably one of the best things that ever happened in my life. My wife, Tammy, kind of, I want to say demanded, but pretty much told me I better go get tested by a neuropsychologist, and I did, and it changed my life. It really helped me. It opened up a lot of windows to my childhood, to growing up, and now it's time to, we feel we wanted to go public with this to not just help other professional athletes, but to help children and grown-ups all over the world.
Can you tell us what led to the diagnosis?
Yeah, what led to your wife pushing you so much, demanding?
Well, she always, with high functioning autism as well, if you're around that person every once in a while, you really don't see a big difference. It's the people who are married to that person, or a father or a mother who see that person hour after hour every day, that you kind of see something a little bit different. And my wife kind of noticed it with me. I would have meltdowns, wanted to be in dark places. I couldn't understand some of facial expressions for other people. And a couple months before that, before I was diagnosed, I had problems with the PGA Tour rules officials. There was a ruling, and I was kind of bullied, I would think, by them. They didn't give me an opportunity, and I didn't understand the entire ruling or the disqualification, and it happened a lot quicker than my brain could have comprehended it. So when we got home from that, my wife demanded that I get tested, and I did, and I fought her tooth and nail. I think it was 2 to 3 weeks before I finally went down and did it. And it was probably a couple of weeks to a month before I finally sat down and read the diagnosis of it. But when I finally did, and I read a lot of it, it opened up a lot of windows. It made more sense to me why I am the type of person that I am, why I am the athlete, the elite athlete that I am. But it also made sense why I had a hard time in school with certain teachers and not others, why I get along so good with certain people and not others, and sometimes why I come across as being weird or cocky or quiet, that people don't understand, when I think that's very normal for me. So it opened up a lot of windows for me. And as I said before, we'll say a few times probably, it's something that, everyone thinks of autism as Rain Man. And that's not the case in this. We have high functioning autism. And like I said, you don't notice that if you're around that person every once in a while, but when you're around that person all the time, you do. So it's a learning process. I learn things every day. I learn, coming on shows and talking about it to people like you all. I learn more things about it, and I think you do too. And I think it's such a great thing to give back to people, and makes people make more sense of their entire lives.
Are you able to share what happened with you? I'm very interested about the ruling and what happened on the PGA Tour, you said.
Well, it was a weird situation where TV was involved. They saw something on film that I was not able to see, and it ended up being a disqualification because of that. Although it does state in the rule book that if my eyes don't see the ball move or that particular case, it's not a penalty. It's called the naked eye rule. And I was bullied by the tour. I was bullied by the officials on the tour to make an impromptu. They made a decision without my presence, and I didn't argue back or fight back for my rights. And it was something that when it affects your income, it affects your livelihood. You got to get some help. And the blessing for us was that we went to a PGA, the USGA rules seminar afterwards, and I was correct in everything that I did. And then got tested and all that. And then COVID hit. So it gave me a lot of time to be at home to work with my neuropsychologist to kind of help me. So it was kind of a 3-step process, which was a blessing in all of it.
Yeah, I found, especially when I was working in corporate America, and nothing is like the epitome of corporate America than the insurance industry, where wait, why? And wanting to know the reason behind the rules and the details, and feeling when they're unjust, and but it sounds like at least you were able to get the reason why, right? So
I did, and as you know,
even if you didn't agree with it,
see that even sometimes when you see what the reason is, sometimes it just takes you a little bit of time to comprehend it and all that. And that's where I felt I was bullied by the tour. They tried to get this done and have me disqualified and get away as fast as they could. And they were wrong. They were wrong. And I have to look at it now that that's done. I've been diagnosed, and now it's my responsibility and my job to go out and help other people help themselves too. So they're not bullied or taken advantage of.
What would you, if you were diagnosed prior to that and the same situation were to happen again, how would you handle differently, if at all?
Well, I would have, first of all, probably been a little bit more standoffish. I probably would have argued a little bit more. I would have used more eye contact, and I tried to recognize their body language and their facial expressions probably a little bit better than I did, because I didn't know anything about that at the time. But I think the biggest thing is I probably would have stood more up for myself. I knew what the rules were, and never would have been belligerent or rude or anything like that, but I would have stood my ground a lot better and not have them take advantage of me. And I think the biggest thing is I probably just would have asked for more time. I would say, hold on a second, before we make this decision, let me a minute here. Let me think about this. Give me a couple minutes, and then we'll talk about it. But you got to give me a few minutes. And they wanted it done and out of there as fast as they could.
Yeah, I think that's a good takeaway from it. Asking for more time. I mean, I can see that being a great tip in so many situations for children, teenagers, adults alike on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we just need more time to process what's happening in front of us, so.
Absolutely. And I think more teachers and coaches, people are becoming aware of that, so that when you ask, hey, can you just give me a few minutes? Let me think about this. It's acceptable. Before, if you did that, people just looked at you that you were weird and you were trying to stall or you're trying to get away with something. And now I think people are more acceptable, saying, okay, hey, yeah, if you need a few minutes, I'll be here, and help the person out so that everyone walks away satisfied.
Totally. Yeah.
And that seems like a reasonable request for anyone, autism or not, to ask for a few minutes. So
right, yeah, and like I said, I hope that, I think the world's changing a little bit. As I said, I think coaches and teachers and bosses and all that are understanding that. And if someone asks for a few minutes, they're more than happy to, because they don't want a conflict, and they don't want it to end badly.
So being a professional golfer, clearly there are things that are more difficult for you being autistic, and would you say that there are other things that your peers and other golfers don't have to worry about that you have to worry about, being on the spectrum yourself?
Well, I look at more, I think I have sometimes more advantages having autism on the PGA Tour than disadvantages. I was blessed that I could go out to the golf course early in the morning and be out there all day by myself and not have a problem with it. Some people just can't handle that. I picked a sport where I don't need a team. I can go out and hit golf balls and do whatever I want all day long. And I didn't mind doing that. I think I know of some guys here who were very good golfers and just could not take the life of a PGA Tour where they were on an airplane, they were in hotel rooms by themselves and away from home. And it made them crazy. And fortunately, they weren't able to stay on the PGA Tour because of that. So I think
you were already crazy. So no, I'm just kidding.
To do that job, you do have to be a little bit crazy. There's no doubt about that. But, it kind of opened my eyes. It takes a special person to be, 32 weeks out of the year in a hotel room, pretty much by yourself. And it's a lonely life. And people turn on the TV and they see the guy finish on Sunday and make $1 million and, the celebration. Oh, what a great life. You don't get to see the other 148 guys who are struggling at the time. So it's just like any other job. There's good times, there's bad times, and you just have to deal with a lot of situations.
So was beating Tiger Woods the best moment of your career? And if not, which one was it?
Well, it's the one I'm the most asked about. That's for sure. It was this October February. This February was 25 years. It'd been 25 years since I had beaten him. And there's not a day that doesn't go by where someone doesn't tell me about it or talk to me about it, or we don't discuss it. So, it's 25 years. So, and I'm the only one. And unfortunately, I might end up being the only one because I don't know how much Tiger is going to be able to play and be able to compete anymore. But, it was a great thrill for me. I loved the fact that I won the golf tournament. I think that was probably the most important thing. Tiger was not what Tiger is now by any means. I think he only won one other tournament, had not even won a major yet. So people weren't too sure about him. But I think the greatest thing was that Tiger and I have a very mutual respect for one another. We don't talk very much, him and I, but we're so very professional. And, I'll tell you a little story. We were at a tournament one time and we were all in the players' dining room. He came and sat next to my wife, Tammy, and I, and said, do you mind if I sit here with you guys? We go, no. He goes, well, Billy, you're the only one I can't intimidate out here. So, it's great that I beat him in a playoff and all that, but I think the friendship that we got, or the camaraderie, especially we were both in the Pac-12 too, helped our friendship too.
That's so great to hear, because we don't see that side of professional golfing or any sports. We only see what we see on TV. So
it is hard. And for him, for the amount of media, the amount of people that want his time all day, when he's in the locker room or he's at the hotel, that's his only free time. And when you see him that way, he's a little bit of a different person, but he definitely turns it on when he's on that first tee. There's no doubt about that. So.
And how do you get ready? How do you prep for a tournament?
I go pretty, it's funny, and it has, and this is another thing, the way I would do I got up in plenty of time. I get sure that I stretch real good in the morning. I eat certain foods in the morning. If we have an late afternoon tea time, I won't go to bed until, wee hours of the morning so that I can wake up at the same time and give myself the same time schedule. And that's something to do with my autism. And that was something that I never thought about until I was diagnosed. And one of the things I do, I don't like to drive fast to the golf course. I want to give myself plenty of time. I'm not saying I'm going to drive under the speed limit, but I just take my time. And if there's an accident or someone's being a jerk, or if there's at the tournament a hard time to get in through the gate or something, I always want to allow myself enough time not to stress out about missing my tee time.
Sounds like someone preparing to go through security at the airport.
The airport, yeah. Well, you should see how early we get to the airports to go through TSA. Yeah, it's pretty early. So, luckily, I can say I haven't missed too many flights in my day. But I always like to give myself plenty of time. I'll say, yes, let's leave it this. I go, honey, let's leave it this time. We're going to leave that early. I say, yep.
I feel like there's like two types. There's like people who show up like 2 hours early. And then there's the people who don't, and they usually marry each other. So, but also too. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of ours. You're right. Andrew, you're absolutely right. We're opposites, and I think that's very important to mention. That helps a relationship, helps a marriage, and if you had two people that were the same way, I think it'd be a lot harder to function.
Do you have any tips for children who might want to start golfing? When did you start?
My dad actually, we would go up to Prescott, Arizona in the summertime, and he put a golf club in my hand when I was about 3 years old. And we just hit some balls on the range. And as I kind of grew, I used to do a lot of swimming. I was a pretty good swimmer in the state of Arizona, and I would swim on Monday nights and play golf on Tuesday. And when I swam, I would get a ribbon. I finished second. I got a red ribbon and all that stuff. I finished second in golf tournament. I got a trophy. So golf was a lot more fun because I wanted that trophy over those ribbons. So plus, I think it was too. I mean, swimming was the same way. I could go to the pool and swim laps and didn't have to have anybody around me or a team. Golf was the same way. I'd go out to the golf course and chip and putt and hit balls, go out and play, and be out there all day and just love doing what I did. And I love competition. I love playing on the tour. I love the fact that on every Thursday morning or Friday morning on the tour, we all start even, no matter what you did the week before. We all start dead even, and it's a whole new week and a whole new tournament. And it's not like, baseball, these other sports, you always, if you lost your last game, you're this many games behind. In golf, you could have lost by 100 shots in the week before, but you start dead even come Friday or Thursday or Friday morning.
Do you play mini golf?
No, not anymore. No, I'm kind of like the race car drivers. They won't make a left. They don't ever want to make a right hand turn. I don't ever want to play miniature golf. It would mess up my golf game. I never even wanted those putting greens, those artificial turf greens in my backyard, because I just, if I'm going to go practice and go hit balls, I'm going to go to the golf course. And that's one I could never figure out. Why would I want a putting green in my backyard? So.
Does it make really a big difference, the green on a golf course, and like if you do and the green in a practice?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's most of the greens you have in your backyard are artificial turf. So no matter how much sand or how you condition them, you can make them however you want. It's still not grass, and it's still not what you do on the golf course. So, but to me, it's one of those, when I leave the golf course, I put the clubs in the car and I'm done with golf until the next day. I don't ever want to bring it home. I'm not one who putts in the room or swings in the room or stuff like that. I get back to the hotel or to the house and I put them away, and I don't see them until the next day.
Do you practice when you're not in a tournament season? Is there a tournament season?
Yeah, we're home this week right now, and I'll go out, just about every day and hit some balls or putt or play with some friends around here. But I stay active. I mean, I'll take a few days off here and there, but I like to practice and play when I'm home.
So, fun fact, as you know, I work at Autism Speaks as the director of social media, and our CEO, Keith Wargo, says that you're one of his favorite golfers. What do you think?
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. We'll tell him thank you, and I appreciate that. And I had a nice note from a child who was diagnosed with autism a few weeks ago, and he said I'm his favorite golfer because of my autism. So those are the things you get in the mail, and you're doing the right thing by helping people.
When did you make your diagnosis public?
Well, we were tested in November of 19, and after it took about 6 months, almost to a year, and for me to read it, to accept it, and then my wife and I made the decision to go public with it because, well, one, the PGA Tour was not accepting autism as any type of disability or anything like that, but it was just more. We realized there were athletes out there, professional athletes that probably had autism that we thought we could help them, and we also saw the help that needed to be by the families who children or athletes who have autism, their families and needed help too, and that's what really kind of got Tammy and I into doing our foundation.
Really like that it's not just autism too. We've had a few other. We've had a football player, right, Eileen? We've had, have we had a basketball player? I feel like there.
No, Tony Snell just came out with an autism diagnosis, but he's not on our podcast.
Yeah.
Well, it's when you go around. I was up in Flint, Michigan, a year ago, and a bunch of kids who had autism had a group of them come out and watch me play one day, and I was unaware that they were out there, and I met them after the round, and to meet the kids and to talk to them and show them that you can do anything you want to do. You can have a normal life. You can be a professional athlete, a golfer. You can be a professional businessman, fireman, for policeman, whatever you want to do. The world's, there's no limitations just because of your autism. I think open their eyes, but to also stand back behind them and watch their parents get a smile on their face and kind of a relief, kind of like, here, someone's finally helping us and telling them that they can do that, made me really think with Tammy and I to help the siblings, because honestly, there's just isn't enough help out there for them.
Yes, that's true. I have two autistic children, and I'm on the spectrum myself, so it's all of my life, and we do need the community, and you know what they say, it takes a village.
That's right. Well, God bless you all. It's a true statement. Yes.
Do you had anybody reach out to you after your diagnosis that's not like a fan, or like did anybody you play with maybe reach out after your diagnosis?
I've had a lot of special. I had a gentleman who was, I think, 58, 59 years old. He was a professional writer. He wrote for a lot of newspapers, all that back in New York, and he read my article and went and got diagnosed and wrote me a nice note and thanked me for having me do that, having me tell my story so that he would do it, because he always felt that there was just something not right there. And after he was diagnosed, it helped him a bunch. But I've actually almost gotten more notes from grown-ups than maybe I have children, because I think that grown-ups, they've had this condition their whole life and they're unaware of it. And then all of a sudden at age 40, 50, 60 years old, I had heard a note from a woman who just got diagnosed with it, who's 70 some odd years old. And it's like, it rejuvenated her life, because now things started making more sense, and she was able to do some things and understand why things went the way they did sometimes. And that's the blessing. And that's why I've encouraged people to go get diagnosed.
Well, 77, that's such a cool story.
Yeah. Palm Springs. Yeah. In fact, she lives in Palm Springs, and she came out and I met her during the tournament and didn't know the whole story. And maybe she got diagnosed, I think, after that. That's right. It was after that. So it's been 77-year-old woman. And, that's when when you try to reach out and help people, that when you do find someone like that, it's really a blessing.
What else do you like to do other than golf, if anything at all?
Drive my wife nuts. No,
we should have that at least.
I love to bowl. I do a lot of bowling. I love animals. I try to help some charities around here and there, all over in Oklahoma and in Arizona for charities, for animal foundations and all that. But, golf is any sport, anything right now is a year-round sport. And even though we're in the off season, I'm still preparing, working out and doing things. But one of my favorite things I love to do is sit on my recliner and watch TV. And that's okay. That's the way that I self-soothe my brain a lot. And it wasn't until I was diagnosed that I realized it was okay to sit on that sofa and watch the TV for a few hours and, to calm down. That's the way that I calm down. That's the way I do it. So I feel okay when I do it now.
We all need it.
We all need it. Yeah.
So is there any place that do you have a social media where we can find you? This is the place to promote yourself, or anything else that you would like to share.
Well, we can talk to Steve obviously on the line there, but it's mostly billymayfair.org. And that tells everything about what we're trying to do, and then the foundation and all that. And as you know, and I know, it can be a slow process sometimes with all this and then all the stuff you have to do, but it's on billymayfair.org. And we're taking it one day at a time and trying to help one person at a time. And thank you for having me on and doing this, because it makes it people aware of it. And as I'm finding out more and more people hear about it and talk about it, the more they start thinking about things and want to get diagnosed or to help their children or something like that. And that's what we're out here for. We're here to help other people with this.
I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions. Basically,
okay.
The first answer that comes to your mind.
Okay.
What's your favorite animal?
Dog.
Happy Gilmore or Caddyshack?
Caddyshack.
Your favorite actor?
Kevin Costner.
Favorite food?
Pizza.
And favorite color?
Lavender.
Oh, that's so pretty. Love that answer.
Are you watching Yellowstone? Wasn't one of the questions, but just a side note from your,
Well, yeah, I have watched Yellowstone. My cousin makes all the jeans for Yellowstone. He has his own business here up in north here, and so we've watched Yellowstone. Kevin, I got to know. I've met Kevin a few times. We were on the sets there for Tin Cup, so I've always been kind of a Kevin Costner fan because I've got to spend some time with him. But we have watched Yellowstone, but more it's just to see the jeans. It sounds funny, but to watch the jeans than the actual movie. So
that's hilarious. I love it. Well, that's it for us. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, hey, thank you for having me on, and thank you for what all you guys do and getting the word out and spreading it around and helping people understand better the diagnosis and all that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.